Mr. Kant, there is no doubt that bringing in the African Union, which you just mentioned, into the G20 must be seen as a major achievement, no doubt about it. But do you really believe that the balance of power between the global south and the powerful Western nations has been truly redrawn? Are you really seeing that countries will actually now walk the talk on critical issues of climate finance, of ensuring that the war in Ukraine ends? Will the concerns of the global south on debt restructuring actually be acted upon? Will all of this remain only on paper?
So if you look at the document I think this is the first document which the G20 has produced. And let me clearly say that G20 is not G7. It comprises also of emerging markets. And therefore, there's a whole focus on the global south. There's a whole focus on developing countries. There's a big focus on emerging markets. And that is why on both climate action, climate finance, or the reform of the multilateral institutions, the global south has had a big say. Before we started the G20, the Prime Minister had held a meeting with all the leaders of the global south, 125 leaders, taken their priorities. And therefore, this document is really a document of the global south in many ways. The number of times you will see developing countries emerge out of this document is quite extraordinary. And the concerns and their voice is being greatly felt in this document. And I would really request all of you to kindly read through this document, because it's highly inclusive, it's very, very decisive, and it's very action-oriented.
Now, you've used the word inclusive, Mr. Kant, several times already. Now, let me turn to some of the contentious issues. How much of this summit success, or indeed this inclusivity that you speak about, the consensus building, was because of the Prime Minister's personal intervention, his personalized style of diplomacy? I recall interviewing you 1 year ago when you'd just taken over as G20 Sherpa, and you said you were going to take G20 across India, and you did that with 220 meetings over 60 cities. But critics are saying the Prime Minister has then used this to boost his domestic image, that while we talk of Vasudevam Kutumbakam for the world, of one family, one world, have we been able to do that in India as well? Actually build bridges within this country?
So G20 is basically, when India hosts the G20, the leader of G20 is the Prime Minister. It has to have his stamp. It has to have his vision. It's a leadership-driven organization, and I am the Sherpa to the Prime Minister of India, and therefore I implement what the leader desires in this. And his vision was to take G20 to all the states of India, to 60 cities of India, to make it a people-centric G20. That's very unlike what other G20s are about. They are held in one city or two cities. So that's his vision. His vision was that we should only give one district, one product gifts. His vision was that we should utilize millets. His vision was that we should bring in digital public infrastructure as a very major component of our presidency. His vision was that women-led development should be a very major criteria of our G20 presidency. All this, there's a huge India narrative into the New Delhi leader's statement. And this has all been driven at the highest level by the Prime Minister. His vision was that our motto should be one earth, one family, one future. His vision was that it should be revolved around Vasudev Kutumbakam. Therefore, all this is really being driven at that level.
But was the Prime Minister's vision also to, in a way, identify G20 with his own personality? Because we are now entering an election year, is G20 being used in some way to build the Prime Minister's larger-than-life image, as I said earlier at the start, to build him as a Vishwa Guru, or dare I say now, as you say, Vishwa Mitra?
Rajdeep, I don't think we should bring politics into this issue at all. The G20 has been very professionally organized. It's been a stupendous achievement in terms of being able to arrive at a consensus document, not merely on all growth and development issues. This is the first document with 83 paras, without a bracket, without a footnote, without any reservation whatsoever. All countries across 20 countries, plus the 9 invited countries, plus all the international organizations agree to it 100%, taking it forward. I do not think it has anything to do with politics. We have been able to give a different perspective and bring everybody around and take this forward. There are components of it which come in from various other parts of the world, but the India narrative is fully intact there in a very big way.